morning, everyone, and welcome back to another Mad Meta Magic, where we try to make the magic meta mad. Today, I got a really fun-looking deck revolving around Glimpse of Tomorrow and Cascading. Very different than the last one. The last one we were trying to, cascade into Emrakul and just win the game on the spot. In this one, we are doing a bunch of elemental shenanigans. Elemental enters the battlefield triggers. We're basically trying to continue glimpsing until we glimpse our whole deck. Chancellor of the Forge does some pretty nasty stuff in this deck, so the purpose of Chancellor of the Forge is twofold. Number one, we can reveal this card from our opening hand and get a Goblin. This is an extra permanent for the purposes of trying to Glimpse of Tomorrow, but it also, when it enters the battlefield, we get X 1/1 red Goblin creature tokens with haste, so we get enough goblins to just kill our opponent in one shot is the plan. So how are we going to accomplish this? Sorry, I had to reread Fury for a second. So to accomplish this, we have some cards for extra permanents. We have Wave Sifter, we have Seasoned Pyromancer, both of which kind of generate extra permanents for us to put onto the battlefield. We have Risen Reef, because we're putting in a bunch of elementals into play. We've got Foundation Breaker, we've got Omnath, we've got Risen Reef, we've got Wave Sifter. Technically, Fury is an elemental. So every time these enter the battlefield, we're going to draw a bunch of cards or put a bunch of lands into play. This is either going to draw us another Cascade, or in theory, we just get a whole bunch more lands into play, and then if we don't get enough goblins to kill our opponent, we can hopefully hit Goblin Dark Dwellers, which will allow us to flashback Glimpse of Tomorrow, and then we just spin again. And the idea, I think, is to do this a few times until you get just this massive ball of Goblin Death. We have Omnath, which just has some great enters the battlefield effects, stapled all over it. Another probably best elemental currently available. And I'm not playing the full power version of this deck, and it's not full power by a lot because of one missing sideboard card. I do not have the green Evoke Elemental in any number. They are 50 tickets a piece, or like 45 or something like that, so I just can't afford them. In theory, I think... Hang on, let me look up what it's called again. Endurance. So in theory, with Endurance, you could loop your own graveyard, because you could play the elemental, put all of your cards back, and then try and spin again into even more permanents. But it is better Grave Hate than Leyline of the Void or Ravenous Trap is in this deck, because it's actually castable. It's got a relevant 3/4 body. It has reach, and you can't cascade into it. So, all right. Well, I think I've talked enough. Let's take this into a Modern League, shall we? Alrighty. Round one, we get a Violent Outburst. We got a Chancellor of the Forge. Let's go for it, shall we? These make Phyrexian Goblin tokens. Interesting. Well, alright then. I guess I'll lead on Steam Vents. Go to combat. Hit our opponent for 1. They go to 19. I don't know if it's visible on camera, but I trimmed all the split ends out of the bottom of my beard, and it looks much more round to me. But I don't know if that's just because I see it and nobody else does, or if it's actually noticeable. Go to combat, attack for 1. Hit our opponent down to 18, and pass the turn. Opponent cracks Wooded Foothills. It's a Stomping Ground tapped, okay. They untap. They play a Wooded Foothills. They crack Wooded Foothills. So they're Teamer colored, which means they might be Crashing Footfalls Cascade. They get a Forest. They play Seasoned Pyromancer. They could be playing the exact same deck I'm playing right now, actually. So let's see what they discard. Risen Reef and Tireless Provisioner. I think they are playing the same deck we're playing. So, crack Wooded Foothills. Get a Temple Garden tapped. Untap. We draw Colony Garden. I could wait. Maybe the correct choice is to wait. But I'm going to do this. Cast Glimpse of Tomorrow. No, and no. Alright, well. Alright. Just pass the turn. Opponent's gonna do something way better than that. I imagine. Okay. 4 mana for our opponent. Shardless, floating a green. Opponent gets a Wave Sifter, Tireless Provisioner, Shardless Agent, lots of lands, lots of tokens. Kind of liking the Tireless Provisioner angle on this deck. I wonder why Tireless Provisioner and not Tireless oh, treasures. I can make treasures. That seems a lot better than clues. Well, if they can spin again, we're probably toast. Opponent cracks Wooded Foothills. Gets a treasure. Did I say probably? I meant definitely. Glimpse of Tomorrow. Oh yeah, no, that's... They got Flamekin Zealot in there. I haven't seen that since Dread Return. Yep. So we're definitely dead. Pretty sure with just what's on board and the Flamekin Zealot trigger. An opponent can actually Dark Dwellers and spin again if they want to. But, dang, son. I guess we'll bring in Mystical Dispute over, like, Foundation Breaker. And, maybe a Colony Garden or two. Try it like this. I guess I could bring in Leyline of the Void if they're doing the Dark Dweller thing. But I don't think we need it. And I don't know how much it's going to help. I will say we definitely kept the wrong type of hand, seeing how our opponent's deck operated. We really need a hand with Seasoned Pyro or Wave Sifter or multiple Chancellors, something like that, to get some extra tokens on board early. Alright. This looks more like the hand I was talking about, so we will be keeping this. So start with Colony Garden, get a token, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays a Colony Garden, makes a token, passes turn. We draw Shardless Agent, play Scalding Tarn, crack Scalding Tarn, get a Steam Vents, untapped, evoke Wave Sifter, get some tokens, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, and we just need to draw an untapped land. Opponent plays a forest, then they pass. We untap, we draw a Stomping Ground. Alright, I think we go for it, right? Shardless Agent, Cascade. Cast Glimpse of Tomorrow. Here's hoping for something better than 3 lands. Okay, so Seasoned Pyromancer. We're going to discard, I guess, Glimpse of Tomorrow and Mystical Dispute. Make some tokens. We draw Risen Reef. And, yeah, let's spin again. I think we went up 1 permanent. Okay. Dark Dwellers on Glimpse of Tomorrow. We get a token, we draw a card, get a bunch of mana. Yeah, let's spin again. I feel like I'm not doing anything, and I very well may not be. Alright, we get Fury. We can do 4 damage there. Dark Dwellers. Draw a card. Oh, wait. Oh, we can keep generating mana that way? That's kind of cool. I didn't know that. So then play Risen Reef. Draw Risen Reef. Crack Wooded Foothills. Get a forest. Damage our opponent. Play Risen Reef. Draw Mystical Dispute. Put Scalding Tarn into play. I've exiled 2 Glimpse of Tomorrows. So now I spin again. I think. Cast Glimpse. Shuffle all up. We don't shock. Risen Reef trigger. Draw Seasoned Pyromancer. Get a token. Get a bunch of goblins. Do we play 2 or 3 Glimpse of Tomorrows in this list? It's kind of important. We play 4. Or 3 or 4 is what I meant to say. Of 1 floating mana. So sack Scalding Tarn. Get a Steam Vents. Untapped. Sack this. Get an island. And sack this. And get a Stomping Ground. Untapped. Then we evoke. Draw Risen Reef. Investigate. Then we Shardless Agent. And this time we get a huge Glimpse of Tomorrow. This is like Glimpse of Tomorrow's Storm. So cast our last Glimpse for tomorrow. Or Glimpse of Tomorrow, excuse me. I'm gonna shock a bunch of mana. So, no damage to anything, no damage to anything. Target Glimpse. Put a Forest into play. Draw Omnath. Draw Dark Dwellers. Draw Omnath. Investigate. Do we have a Forest or anything left in the deck? Okay, we've got this. Going to float a bunch of mana. Then we cast Glimpse of Tomorrow. This is just like shuffle up, deal a random number of cards from your deck into play. Is it what you want? It's very much like Four Horsemen-esque to me. I'm floating 5 mana, so I can spin again if I want. Okay. Keep this one. No targets for Fury. No targets for Fury. I have a Glimpse of Tomorrow. I can do it again. Colony Garden, Colony Garden, Omnath, Omnath, Wave Sifter, Omnath, 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 Omnath. A million Risen Reefs. Stomping Ground into play. No, we will not pay life. Wooded Foothills into play. Draw Shardless. Draw Seasoned Pyromancer. Apparently I drew Hollowed Fountain. That was incorrect. Gain a bunch of life, do a bunch of damage. Investigate. We draw and draw. We get a Violent Outburst, but that doesn't matter. Colony Garden, Colony Garden. Now Dark Dwellers. Do it again! I think Omnath actually is what's killing our opponent. I think everything else is just play Omnath as many times as possible, because each new instance of Omnath can trigger 3 times. Well, this will be our final Glimpse of Tomorrow. We're not going to pay any life. No targets for Fury. Target Mystical Dispute. Colony Garden. Omnath. Wave Sifter, Wave Sifter. I would hate trying to play this deck in paper. Holy crap. 1 Glimpse of Tomorrow and it'd be like an unresolvable stack, because you'd have to count very carefully all of your triggers. You know, I had the decency to scoop, opponent. I'm just being mean. Okay. 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 Uh-huh. I'm probably gonna die to, like, drawing too many, things off of Risen Reef. We will not cast the card. Fury does nothing. 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 Our initial Shardless Agent finally resolves. Alright, cast Chancellor of the Forge. Make a million Gobos with haste, and our opponent finally scoops. Okay, we are at a significant disadvantage. Maybe I do bring in Leyline of the Void. That might actually be better than Mystical Dispute. Yeah, run it back. Technically this hand works. I'm gonna mulligan. This I will actually keep. Put back Glimpse. Let's see what our opponent's first turn is. Opponent leads on fetch land. We draw a hilariously bad card. Play Scalding Tarn, pass the turn. This might be a restart the client every game kind of deck due to lag. I think I cast Glimpse of Tomorrow 8 times or 9 times last game. Something absurd. Okay, opponent evokes a Wave Sifter. Crack Scalding Tarn, get a Stomping Ground. Okay. Opponent gets tokens. We untap and draw Colony Garden. Play Colony Garden. Get a token. Pass the turn. Opponent passes. We untap. Draw Misty. Play Misty. Fetch up an island. And I guess I'm just going to Shardless Agent. It's a little early, but I kind of locked myself into doing this. The game is lagging. Okay, there we go. Cast Glimpse. We get an Omnath. Yes, we will shock. Yes, we will shock. Whole bunch of Omnath triggered abilities. Gain life. Add mana. Damage our opponent. Draw card. Risen Reef. Play Shardless Agent. Then we play Risen Reef. Risen Reef finds us a Leyline, which it draws. Crack Misty. Get a Forest. Omnath trigger does nothing. Float mana. Violent Outburst. Cascade again. Cast Glimpse of Tomorrow. 6 permanents this time. Okay. Omnath gains life, adds mana, Wave Sifter gives me tokens, Omnath draws me a card, it's a Scalding Tarn, get a plant, Violent Outburst goes off, Crack Misty. How much mana do I have? I'll have 6. Get an island. Damage my opponent. I was going to play Seasoned Pyromancer, but the problem with that is there's no guarantee it will actually do anything. Although maybe I should have, I guess. Think I'm out of plays. Yeah, maybe I was supposed to get a red source there and cast it, but we are out of plays, I believe. I can crack the Clue, but then I'm down below Cascade mana. So... Alright, pass the turn. Your go, opponent. You're at 8. Opponent sacks a Clue and draws. Untaps. They play a Misty. They crack Misty. They get a Forest. It's time for them to play Solitaire. Shardless Agent. Man, they could just get a bad spin, but these decks are designed to not do that. Seasoned Pyro, Seasoned Pyro. So they can make a whole bunch of tokens, but they're out of lands. They discard Omnath, Mystical Dispute. Then they have to discard 2 more cards. They get a Shardless Agent. We untap. We draw Forest. What do we do here? So I can Scalding Tarn and fetch, getting a Stomping Ground, which gives me a total of 7 mana, but only 2 of it's red. So I can't cast Chancellor and just win the game. I can evoke Fury. Alright, I think I've got to play Seasoned Pyro, I think. We either need to draw a Shardless Agent, or we need to just outright win the game. Play Seasoned Pyro. Ditch Leyline, Leyline. We get a Glimpse, but we can't do anything with it. So let's draw a card. Goblin Dark Dwellers. Okay. So let's evoke Fury, ditching Chancellor. Fury, we're going to kill all of their tokens to minimize the number of permanents they have on board, just in case they had some way to cheat on mana. Fury down. Tokens down. Go to combat. Attack, attack. I really don't care if we lose Omnath at this point, because next turn I think they're just dead to us attacking. Opponent does decide to double block. Okay. Kill their guys. They're at 4. They play a Colony Garden and pass. We untap. Draw Gemstone Caverns. Go to combat. Attack, and this should deal 4 damage. Opponent takes 4. There's no 1 mana burn spell, is there? Unless they're playing Dead and Gone? Okay, cool. What a match! We did it! We'll see you guys in round 2. Alrighty. Welcome back. As you can probably tell, a lot has happened since the last recorded match and this one. My beard is shorter, and you probably noticed that the camera is a lot higher resolution. Turns out it was zoomed in, like way in. Also, I really need to turn down this volume. Holy crap. Yeah, it was zoomed way in, and in this, I think I did it because I had to for the angle of view on the green screen. But with the green screen the way it is now, I've moved setups for other reasons. I am a lot closer to it, so I can zoom out and you can see me in full 4K, I think I'm recording in right now. Or at least the tiny 1/16 of the screen that my camera is actively recording is in 4K, so... Well, it looks like I'm against some kind of white-blue Taxes deck here. We've got a Thraben Inspector, Wall of Omens. I'm really surprised my opponent isn't playing a Yorion deck, but that's kind of to be expected. We get hit for 1, we go down to 18, we untap, we draw a Seasoned Pyromancer, let's play a Colony Garden, get ourselves a token. As long as we're not under any immediate duress, let's go ahead and next turn I think we'll play Seasoned Pyromancer, and just so we have enough tokens to kind of get the combo off to kill our opponent. If my opponent plays something that could be like an infinite combo piece or something that is really, really scary, maybe I'll Cascade this turn. Well, that kills us. We cannot beat a Resolve to Fairy with this hand. I guess I could just play a fair Omnath and Seasoned Pyromancer, but the primary game plan of Glimpse of Tomorrow is off the table. So we untap, we draw Risen Reef. Maybe I should play Risen Reef? No, I think Seasoned Pyromancer is better. So play Scalding Tarn, crack Scalding Tarn. We need to get a red land, and it is probably a Steam Vents. Shock Steam Vents. Play Seasoned Pyromancer. And we're going to discard Glimpse of Tomorrow, and I think Violent Outburst, because those cards don't do a whole lot for us. We get a Foundation Breaker and a Stomping Ground, pass the turn. So we have a Wooded Foothills in hand that can fetch us a Temple Garden so we can actually play Omnath. Unfortunately, that is the last fetch land in our hand. Opponent plays a Flooded Stream. They might be cracking the Clue here. Man, it is so weird. I keep reaching for my beard, and it's not there, because I would stroke my beard when I'm thinking. And I'm like, where is it? Oh, that is disconcerting. Alright, opponent attacks us for 1. We go down to 13. We untap. We draw a Glimpse of Tomorrow. So I could play Foundation Breaker and kill this Clue, but I don't think that's a good idea. I think we are going to just fetch up Temple Garden and then play Omnath. White, blue, green. Omnath, Locus of Creation. So when it enters the battlefield, we're going to draw a card here. Opponent is going to Solitude Omnath. If they have an Ephemerate, we are, I think, in trouble. Oh, they do, don't they? Well, they did exile Soul Herder, so if they're definitely like the Soul Herder Flicker value deck, and they're playing red, which means they are definitely playing the like Kiki combo in the form, well, not Kiki combo, but they're playing Saheeli Rai and Felidar Guardian. We draw Dark Dwellers. I don't know if Dark Dwellers actually lets me cast a Glimpse of Tomorrow or not. I'm gonna keep playing just to find out. But Teferi kind of kills this deck hard. It stops us from having our most powerful hands. Opponent upticks the fairy to 3, and they play an Auriok champion. They attack us for 3, we go back down to 13, we untap, draw Wave Sifter, shock Stomping Grounds, play Goblin Dark Dwellers. I'm pretty sure this does not allow me to cast Glimpse of... I just want to make absolute certain, because I'm pretty sure with this being the only ability on the stack, yeah, this is not sorcery speed timing, so, okay. For some reason I thought that would work. I know intuitively that that doesn't work. I've had a long day. Alright, so moving on to game 2. We need to beat Teferi, which means I have to bring in Mystical Dispute, and we are going to drop... what do we drop here? I think I cut a Colony Garden or 2. I guess I'm only going to bring in a couple of Mystical Disputes. The rest of my deck seems actually pretty good against what my opponent's doing. It just sucks if they have Teferi on turn 3. I guess maybe playing Seasoned Pyromancer was wrong. Maybe I just needed to go for the combo as fast as possible upon seeing white and blue. Alright, I'd like to play first. That's a mulligan. Okay, this is keepable. And I'm going to put back Dark Dwellers. So lay down a fetch land, pass the turn. And unless my opponent misses their second land drop, I think I am just going to cascade with only a few permanents. I'd really like to draw a Colony Garden here. So crack Misty. Let's go and get a Steam Vents tapped. We untap, draw Scalding Tarn, play Misty, pass the turn. When it cracks Flooded Strand, gets a Hollowed Fountain tapped. They untap. They shock a second Hollowed Fountain and play Watcher for Tomorrow. So crack Misty. I'm gonna get Temple Garden tapped. You put a face down card under Watcher for Tomorrow. So we untap. We draw Foundation Breaker. Well, it doesn't really do anything. So I guess we just Violent Outburst. I could try and go for the Risen Reef and maybe have like a fair game plan this game. But if they have Teferi again, we're probably screwed. Especially because they're playing Solitude. Solitude kind of really messes this deck up. Because we can't rely on our opponent tapping out. Man, 3 permanents. I think we gotta go with Risen Reef. I think my opponent has to not have Teferi. And at the bare minimum, this needs to be a land. Alright, it's a land. Pass the turn. Since we can play Omnath, if we play Omnath, play Wooded Foothills, fetch Wooded Foothills, and get both landfall triggers, we can cast Violent Outburst off the mana, and we have so much stuff on board that there's like no way we can lose. So opponent plays Saheeli Rai. The real concern is my opponent has Solitude still, just as like a free kill spell here. We untap, we draw Violent Outburst, so we're gonna go big or go home. Oh, I don't have another green source. I actually can't. In this case, the correct choice is playing Wooded Foothills, cracking Wooded Foothills, getting a forest, floating mana, casting Violent Outburst, cast Glimpse of Tomorrow. Alright, we get Omnath and a whole bunch of landfall triggers, a whole bunch of Dark Dweller triggers. So Dark Dwellers both will target Glimpse of Tomorrow. We get 2 landfall triggers. Crack Scalding Tarn. Get our island. This gives us our 4th landfall trigger, which will kill Saheeli. But mainly what we're doing here is thinning our deck some and floating mana, because we're going to cast this Glimpse of Tomorrow out of the grave. So we draw Shardless Agent. Dark Dwellers is going to cast Glimpse for Tomorrow. We're going to wheel again. We have a whole bunch of mana, and we will pay the life. We get a lot of Omnath triggers. We'll keep an Omnath at random. It doesn't really matter. Okay, So yeah, that was a lot. Okay, we get a plant, and then this Dark Dwellers does nothing. Violent Outburst goes off. I will use my red mana here to play Seasoned Pyromancer. I'm going to end up casting a Shardless Agent. I'm going to ditch this Omnath and this Violent Outburst. Make a whole bunch of Elementals. Okay, so now we can actually cast Wave Sifter, which is pretty sick, because that gives us a whole lot of extra permanents on board. Basically makes our next Glimpse of Tomorrow even better. Our opponent is down to 7. Yep. So let's go ahead and float mana, blue and green. Cast Shardless Agent, Cascade. Alright, cast Glimpse of Tomorrow. Shuffle the whole board back in. This deck really is silly. So Fury is going to kill their guy. Goblin Dark Dwellers is going to target Glimpse of Tomorrow. Colony Garden is going to make a token. Pyromancer is going to draw us cards. Wave Sifter is going to do stuff. And Risen Reef is going to do a whole lot of things. So we draw Omnath. Then we draw Glimpse. That's kind of bad, because I don't think I have a way to shuffle that back in. I guess I can dump it to Seasoned Pyromancer so I can Dark Dwellers it again. Temple Garden we will put into play. No reason to pay the life. Mystical Dispute we draw. Wave Sifter we draw. Dark Dwellers we draw. Hollowed Fountain I should have put on the battlefield, but I clicked too quickly. Violent Outburst, Seasoned Pyromancer, so we're going to dump Glimpse and Foundation Breaker. Oh gosh, we have 2 Risen Reefs. I should have, I think, dumped the lands. Put an island into play, put a Gemstone Caverns into play, put a Stomping Ground into play. No reason to pay the life. Draw another Omnath. Colony Garden makes a token. Crack Misty Rainforest. Get it out of our deck. Get a forest. Float red, float green. Cast Glimpse. Spin the whole deck again. I gotta hit a Chancellor of the Forge sooner or later. Although Risen Reef might actually kill me. I did not think about that. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, we have life to spare, so we did not hit an Omnath because they're either all in our hand or in the grave. My opponent concedes. We were actually dead to our own Risen Reef, and they were like, nah, I'm pretty sure he's got us. That was kind of them. I don't think we make any adjustments. I think we just run it back and then try to think about our actions and the consequences of them before we do anything. Alright, this is not really that great of a hand, so let's mulligan. This hand has a Chancellor, a Colony Garden, and a Wave Sifter, as well as a Cascader. We can even Fury if we need to removal, or need to use removal, so I think we keep this and we put back Omnath, because we're not really going to need them. So let's keep, put back Omnath, reveal Chancellor of the Forge. So on the first turn, we make a Goblin. Opponent plays Plains. We untap, we draw Omnath, okay? Play Colony Garden. Make a plant. Go to combat. Attack for 1. When it takes 1, goes to 19. They untap. They play a Glasspool Shore. We untap and draw Seasoned Pyromancer. So play Misty Rainforest. Crack Misty Rainforest. And I'm going to get a Steam Vents because if I draw a red land, I can play Seasoned Pyro if I deem it necessary. But Steam Vents allows me to play Shardless Agent off of any land we draw, as well as potentially allowing me to cast a Violent Outburst later. So then let's evoke Wave Sifter. Okay, so make some tokens. Attack for 1. Is my opponent casting a Path? Why are they pathing a 1/1 goblin? It just seems incorrect. Get a mountain. I guess if they have Teferi, like, that could be a problem. But if they have Teferi, we have Fury. And Fury can target planeswalkers. Alright, so opponent plays Teferi. They unsummon our token. We untap. I guess we do have an answer to planeswalkers. I was incorrect in the first game. So let's exile Seasoned Pyromancer to play Fury. Unless they have Subtlety, we can kill Teferi. I guess even if they had Subtlety, we could have drawn it again off of Seasoned Pyromancer, or sacked a clue and then evoked it, I guess. So kill Teferi. Spin the wheel. Play Shardless Agent. We'll Cascade. We hit Glimpse of Tomorrow. Cast it. Okay, so Wave Sifter enters the battlefield, makes some tokens. Then we get to recast Glimpse for Tomorrow off of Dark Dwellers. I am going to crack Wooded Foothills here and get a Stomping Ground. Untapped. Float red mana. Then cast Glimpse. Get 5 new permanents. I will pay the life. Shardless Agent resolves. We only ended up with 4 new permanents. Crack Scalding Tarn. Get a Stomping Ground. Untapped. And I think we're going to play Seasoned Pyromancer and dump the rest of our hand away, because we're going to need to draw some more action. This is not necessarily a winning the game board state, but it is better than 3 tap lands. So dump Chancellor, dump Omnath. We get a Misty Rainforest and a Fury. I'm going to play Misty Rainforest, and we will pass, because our guys don't have haste. Okay, so opponent untaps. They play a Plains. They play a Skyclave Apparition, which they can use to get rid of our Seasoned Pyromancer. Okay. So Seasoned Pyromancer gets exiled. And then opponent passes. So sack Misty Rainforest. Let's get a Steam Vents tapped. I would really like to get a Violent Outburst, I think. I guess another Shardless would be fine as well, but untap. We draw Forest. Go to combat. Attack with everybody. Opponent can chump a 1/1 if they want to. Or can block a 1/1, I mean. They block nothing, because they're probably afraid of a fairly cast Violent Outburst. Okay, they go to 9. Play a Forest. Pass the turn. Any land lets us cast Fury, which, I mean, it's not terrible. A 5-mana 3/3 that deals 4 damage however you want to is pretty good. I look weird in like this high fidelity recording without the zoom. The green screen looks a lot crisper when I'm even though I can see the shadow like as not being green screened properly. This is such a huge difference. I'm gonna have to change my setup back in my regular area because of this. Or get a much larger green screen. Opponent is going to flicker Glasspool Mimic, which they can mimic Skyclave Apparition if they wanted to. They can mimic Felidar Guardian. They have infinite Felidar Guardian flickers, but nothing to do with it. They could flicker a land and then have access to Ephemerate, which is kind of scary. They're going to flicker Skyclave Apparition, giving us a token, and then taking out our other 2/2. But they're not changing really our power on board or anything like that. So we untap. Oh, actually, they increased it, because that's a 3/3. We draw Omnath. So I can evoke Fury if I need to. If I evoke Fury and I kill a Felidar Guardian or I kill a Skyclave Apparition, that means they could only block Dark Dwellers or 2 other creatures, which means at most they could stop 5 damage and then take 6 and go to 2. They have the mana to play Saheeli, though, so I think what we have to do is attack, let them block however they're going to block, and then use Fury to clean up the board. So go to combat. Attack with everybody. Opponent blocks a token with Skyclave Apparition, blocks an illusion token with Felidar Guardian, and then blocks Shardless Agent with Felidar Guardian. Okay. Pretty sure that Fury actually exactly cleans up this board if they do that. Okay, so they did not do that. This is traditionally what we call bad in the business. Opponent goes to 1. Opponent did block intelligently. I thought they were going to be forced to actually block with all 3 creatures. I guess I did the combat math wrong. So I can kill a Felidar Guardian with Fury, but I can't kill both. Which I think means I just play Omnath. Because, like, what else am I going to do here? I can invoke Fury and I can kind of... Maybe they are relying on the damage they have on board, so we'll just kill as much as we can. This gives me another 3/3 token. It gets rid of the clone, so if they have like a Ephemerate and a Impact Tremors effect or something like that, then maybe this is better. I don't think so, but possibly. So we get a token, we sack Fury, we pass the turn. My opponent can't play like Rugged Prairie Kiki. Oh, they could play Rugged Prairie Kiki Jiki, I guess. Actually, that is a thing that they could do. Looks like they have Saheeli, though. Yep. So I think we played that correctly. I don't think it was correct to preemptively Fury and take out a Felidar Guardian, because either way, then they would have had the same blocks. So let's go ahead and concede. If Moto lets me. Sometimes when I F6 and my opponent does an infinite combo, because Moto lags, I actually don't get the opportunity to concede to the combo. But alright, well, that was round 2. I'll see you guys in round 3. Alright. Round 3, we've got Cascader, we got a Chancellor of the Forge, and we got 3 lands. So let's go ahead and keep. Reveal Chancellor. So on our opponent's upkeep, make a Goblin token. I think the best thing we could draw right now is either a Wave Sifter or a Colony Garden. We draw Wave Sifter. Play Misty Rainforest, go to combat, and attack our opponent for 1. Opponent cracks Polluted Delta, gets an island. They untap. They play an island. And they play Lord of Atlantis. We're against Merfolk. So let's crack and get a Steam Vents. Tapped. We untap. We draw Risen Reef. So Shock Stomping Ground. Evoke Wave Sifter. Okay. Get a bunch of Clue tokens. Sack Wave Sifter, pass the turn. No attacks. Opponent untaps. They play an island. They play a second Lord of Atlantis, and they attack us for 3 with Island Walk, and we control an island. So, what are the odds they have Force of Negation here? Probably extremely high, I imagine. Am I dead to 2 Lords? If they play... So if their hand is Island, Master of the Pearl Trident, Master of the Pearl Trident, that is 10 damage next turn. And I think that's the most damage they can do. So let's crack Wooded Foothills, get a Forest, and I'm just going to play out Risen Reef this turn. Put Temple Garden into play, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, they draw. They play Mutavault, they play a Tide Shaper, they shut off our Stomping Ground, then they play a Master of the Pearl Trident. Okay. Well, I hope they don't have Force Negation. We go to 5, untap, we draw Foundation Breaker. So, Shock Hallowed Fountain, green, blue, red. Violent Outburst. Cascade. Cast Glimpse of Tomorrow. Opponent's last card is a blue card and Force, so we lose. So yeah, instead of playing Risen Reef, I should have held up Violent Outburst for my opponent's turn. So we're going to bring in Mystical Dispute, and I think we're going to drop Foundation Breaker. I might need Foundation Breaker for some kind of sideboard tech, and I'm going to cut two Colony Gardens. You know what? I'll cut a Mystical Dispute and leave a Foundation Breaker in the deck. You never know when you're going to need to hit like a Grafdigger's Cage or some kind of strange sideboard tech out of Merfolk. Alright, we won the die roll. I'd like to play first. I mean, we didn't win the die roll. It's game 2. We lost game 1. I don't know why Moto said that. It lied to me. We're going to keep this. Reveal Chancellor. Get a Goblin. Pass to our second main phase after attacking with no lands because swag. I don't know. Second main, play Steam Vents tapped. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play Polluted Delta. Then they pass. We draw Scalding Tarn. So play Misty. Go to combat. Attack for 1. I'm going to leave Misty uncracked until my opponent's end step because if they have a Tide Shaper, I don't want them to be able to shut off all of my mana. If Shardless Agent doesn't work, cascading in a Glimpse of Tomorrow because of a counterspell, then we have the option of playing Risen Reef into Omnath. So there's the Tide Shaper. We're going to turn Steam Vents into just an island. My opponent's end step, crack Misty Rainforest. Let's get a Stomping Ground. Tapped. Untap. We draw Misty Rainforest. So shock Temple Garden. And I think I'm gonna go with the Shardless Agent play here. So Shardless Agent Cascade. Cast Glimpse of Tomorrow. Oh, that was terrible. Get a token, get a Shardless Agent. Pass the turn. That was, I think, my worst Glimpse of Tomorrow flip. Opponent plays their third island, then plays a Lord of Atlantis. I'm not going to block. I could have blocked because we don't have an island, but we untap and draw Glimpse of Tomorrow. Play Scalding Tarn, crack it. Get a Steam Vents, untapped. Play Risen Reef. Opponent has Mystical Dispute. Pass the turn. Could attack. I actually probably should have attacked there. I think we've lost this game, but I think we needed that. At the very minimum, we needed the Risen Reef to resolve, hit a land, and then we could play Omnath. I guess if I draw a Cascader, I might be able to get out of this, but if my opponent once again has a removal spell... Yeah, we needed a land last turn. If we had been able to play Dark Dwellers this turn, maybe, because we could flashback the Glimpse of Tomorrow and Grave, but... Alright, Fish got us. And I will see you guys in round 4. Alright, welcome to round 4, and I will be keeping. This is about as good of a hand as we can get. We have a Chancellor, we have a Wave Sifter, and we have a Colony Garden, which means we're going to have a ton of tokens by turn 3, because we have 3 lands and a Cascader. So, reveal Chancellor, start with a Goblin, play Colony Garden, get a plant, go to combat, hit them for 1. Opponent goes down to 19, they untap, they play a Flooded Strand, we untap. We draw a Dark Dwellers, go to combat, attack for 1. Opponent goes to 18, shock Steam Vents, and let's evoke Wave Sifter. We investigate, make 2 clues. Opponent cracks Flooded Strand. They get a Hallowed Fountain tapped. They untap. So this could be control. It's kind of looking like Esper control. We draw Fury, play Misty, go to combat, and attack for 1. They go to 16. We pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Glacial Fortress. They're going to Prismatic Ending a Goblin. Yeah, that's fine. Alright. I'm going to crack Misty. Let's get a Hollowed Fountain. Tapped. And I'm actually going to sack a clue here. Another Violent Outburst. That is promising. We draw Seasoned Pyromancer, which we can't cast because we don't have double red. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Flooded Strand. And they pass. So on their end step, attempt the Cascade. I think straight up blue-white control is probably our worst matchup. Cast Glimpse of Tomorrow. This should definitely get countered. There's the counter spell. Okay. We untap. We draw Risen Reef. I could try and Violent Outburst again, but let's play Risen Reef, because we're going to need to make some land drops and get permanents on board. When it cracks Flooded Strand, they got a second counter spell? Yep. Okay. Well, pass the turn. Opponent passes the turn, not playing anything. We draw Wave Sifter, so evoke Wave Sifter. Make some tokens, investigate. Pass the turn. Opponent opts. Esper Charms to draw cards. They untap. They play a land. And they pass. We untap. We draw Mountain. So play a Mountain. Now let's play Omnath. That'll probably make him counter. Okay, there's the Archmage's Charm. So we lose Omnath. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Creeping Tar Pit. We untap. We draw Risen Reef. Play Risen Reef. Snapcaster Mage for Counterspell. Yep. Well, we all knew this was going to happen when they put Counterspell in Modern. Okay. Pass the turn. They play a land. They attack us for 2. We do not block. Untap. We draw Scalding Tarn. Play Scalding Tarn. Crack Scalding Tarn. Let's get a island. I'm going to cast Dark Dwellers. If I draw another fetch land next turn, I can Seasoned Pyromancer and Violent Outburst. Okay, second Snapcaster for their other counterspell. Okay. So they counterspell Dark Dwellers. Okay, so let's evoke Fury by exiling Chancellor. Kill both Snapcaster Mages so my opponent doesn't have a threat. Good old Pyrokinesis. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Watery Grave tapped. We untap. Draw Gemstone Caverns. So let's play Gemstone Caverns. We'll just pass. Stop on my opponent's upkeep. Oop. Cast Violent Outburst. Cast Glimpse of Tomorrow. Snapcaster Mage for Archmage's Charm. They might use it to draw cards and hope to draw another counterspell. If they have another counterspell in hand, we are probably done. But I think they have to use this as an emergency counter your spell. And I think that's exactly what's happening. So the Archmage's Charm, our Glimpse of Tomorrow. Okay. Well, at least Seasoned Pyromancer is going to draw us a bunch of cards for free. I'm not going to crack any clues. My opponent can animate Tar Pit and get in, but they don't. So they're acting like they have an answer in hand. Let's just cast Fury. Maybe we can get there with Fury beatdown, because my opponent is a control player that had to use all of their answers. They have one card in hand, and apparently it's something that counters this. Oh my god. Pass the turn. That's ridiculous. Opponent animates Tar Pit. They're going to attack us for 5. So we're going to go to 9. We untap. We draw a Stomping Ground. Play the Stomping Ground. Untapped. Play Pyromancer. They drew another answer? I mean, they're control, right? But they haven't drawn, like, any extra cards. No, they have Esper Charmed and Opt. Cryptic. Wow, okay, well. Crack the Clue. We get a Foundation Breaker, which unfortunately does not do very much at all for us. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They draw. They animate Tar Pit. We do not block. We take 5 and go to 2. Sack the Clue. We draw Omnath. Untap. We draw Colony Garden. So white, blue, red, green. Play Omnath. Draw a card. Goblin Dark Dwellers. Play Colony Garden. Gain 4 life. This is actually huge because it keeps us alive this turn. Make a token. Then pass the turn. We're still 2 swings from dead, but we can crack this clue and hopefully draw land. Then the idea is we cast Dark Dwellers, we flashback Glimpse of Tomorrow, we shuffle all of our board back in. So opponent drew a Polluted Delta, they play it, they crack it, they get a island. Fatal Push Omnath, okay. They fire up Tar Pit, go to combat, and they attack and attack. So I'm actually going to block the Snapcaster Mage. On the off chance I actually have to shock a land for some reason. I think we just keep the clue. Okay, we untap, draw Shardless Agent. So float all of our mana intelligently. Cast Shardless Agent. Cascade. The reason I'm doing it this way is because if their last card is a counterspell, they'll counterspell Glimpse of Tomorrow. Then we can cast Dark Dwellers with our remaining mana and get a Glimpse. Unless, of course, this is like Cryptic into... I don't know what it would be. No, we do not need to pay any life for this. So, Risen Reef and Wave Sifter triggers. Risen Reef number 1 puts a Scalding Tarn into play tapped. Risen Reef number 2 puts a Colony Garden into play tapped. Colony Garden makes a plant token. Wave Sifter gives us Investigate triggers. Chancellor gives us a bunch of goblins. Then Shardless resolves. Then we cast Dark Dwellers. And we Glimpse of Tomorrow again. I forgot to float mana. That's actually bad. But we have so many permanents. Something's going to happen, right? I will not pay life. Nope. Nope. Okay. So Foundation Breaker. Oh, it has to. Oh, you may destroy. Okay. Opponent just scoops. Okay. I'm good with that. Let's bring in Leyline of the Void and Mystical Dispute. The problem is I can't take out Foundation Breaker, and I don't think I can take out Fury. So I'm going to drop some Colony Gardens. I guess I'm just not going to bring in Mystical Dispute. They're going to have counter spells. There's not going to be a lot we can do about it. I'll cut I guess a Wave Sifter. I cannot keep a 1-lander, so we're going to mulligan. This actually looks pretty sick. We'll keep. I'm going to put back Risen Reef, I think. We'll lead on Leyline, so our opponent doesn't have access to Snapcaster Counterspell. And we'll actually have to play a little bit scared. We draw Hollowed Fountain, so play Stomping Ground, tapped. Pass the turn. We kept Fury in case our opponent is playing 3 mana Teferi, which they most likely are. But we untap, we draw Omnath, play Hallowed Fountain tapped, pass the turn. We may actually get to Omnath mana yet. Opponent plays a Hallowed Fountain tapped, and then opts. Okay. They untap, they play an island. They play Teferi. They unsummon Leyline of the Void. Okay. We untap, we draw Goblin Dark Dwellers, play Scalding Tarn, crack it, and let's get a Steam Vents. Untapped. Evoke Fury by exiling Dark Dwellers. This being a creature means it can't be Force of Negation at least. Kill Teferi. Then I guess we'll Shardless Agent, because that at least leaves another permanent on board. Although doing this with only 3 lands and no other permanents feels pretty bad. We gotta get some pretty massive hits. Cast Glimpse. Opponent may force this. I doubt it, because we only have 3 permanents, but my luck is we're gonna spin into like no lands. Alright, they ditch Mystical Dispute to force getting our Glimpse. So let's just resolve Shardless Agent and we pass the turn. If we draw a land, we can play an Omnath, which cantrips. If it resolves, which it likely will not. Opponent plays a Drowned Catacomb and passes. We untap. We draw another Shardless Agent, so go to combat. Attack our opponent for 2. Opponent goes to 17. Play Shardless Agent. Cast Glimpse. Opponent counterspells Glimpse. Shardless. Resolves. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Colonnade tapped. They only have 3 cards left. We untap. Draw Wave Sifter. Go to combat. Attack our opponent for 4. Hit them to 13. And I guess we're going to evoke a Wave Sifter. I could have held up Violent Outburst. And I guess in the event of a Wrath, maybe that was correct, but Wave Sifter puts more permanents on board, and they're permanents that are difficult for my opponent to remove. So, get some clues, pass to our opponent. They draw, they play a Sunken Ruins, then pass. We untap. We draw Dark Dwellers, go to combat, attack for 4. My opponent might be animating Colonnade to block. If they are, we outburst. They're animating Tar Pit to block. I think leaving up Archmage's Charm. Well. Violent Outburst. Cascade into Glimpse. Cast Glimpse. Opponent has Aether Gust for Glimpse, which we will put on the bottom of our deck. At least we get 1 extra point of damage and get rid of an opponent's land here. Opponent untaps. Okay, we untap, we draw Gemstone Caverns. So go to combat. And I think we just pass. Play Gemstone Caverns, pass the turn. And colorless land when you're holding a card that costs 4 different colors in your hand feels pretty bad. Not that the card would resolve even if I could cast it, but opponent plays a Flooded Strand. I mean, they've got to have a counter spell, right? Crack a Clue, draw a card. It's Risen Reef. Kind of like that. We untap. We draw another Dark Dwellers. Play Risen Reef. They have a counter spell. Go to combat. Attack them for 2. Opponent cracks Flooded Strand, goes to 9. Gets an island. Fatal pushes Shardless Agent. They untap, they draw a card. They are now top decking. They play Jace, they are no longer top decking. They have actual threats, and it's a problem. They brainstorm, and they pass. We untap. We draw Violent Outburst. This only gets worse for us the longer it goes, so let's go ahead and cast Violent Outburst. Float a blue mana. Cascade. Cast Glimpse. We don't really care about that. Okay, looks like we might be getting somewhere with this. So they exile our grave, they gain 4 life. Glimpse of Tomorrow spins for 5 permanents. And what do we get? Foundation Breaker. I will pay 2 life. Foundation Breaker increases in size. Alright. So we need to cast Dark Dwellers. Crack Wooded Foothills. Get a Temple Garden. Untapped. Crack Scalding Tarn. Get a Mountain. Float mana. Cast Dark Dwellers. Cast Glimpse of Tomorrow. Shuffle in 6 permanents. Hopefully we can get an Omnath. And a bunch of landfall triggers to kill this Jace. Otherwise we might be in trouble. Double Omnath, bunch of landfall triggers. Perfect. So choose an Omnath to keep, that one. Do a whole bunch of discarding shenanigans. We gain life, add mana, gain life, discard, Leyline, and how many glimpses are in the exile zone? 3. Discard Omnath, then we draw cards. Fetch with Wooded Foothills. Get a Stomping Ground. Untapped. Snipe Jace. Then we draw Wave Sifter. Draw Risen Reef. Make a plant. And opponent scoops, giving us the match. Nice. Alright, I'll see you guys in round 5. Hopefully we can get a trophy. Not a trophy, but a treasure chest, I mean. Alright, round 5, and our opener is not keepable. We mulligan. This is just about as not keepable, so we mulligan again. And I will keep this. We'll put back Foundation Breaker and Omnath. We have up to 2 Wave Sifters on our way to Shardless Agent. Opponent leads on planes and passes. We untap, draw Scalding Tarn. Play Scalding Tarn, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays a Swamp, Stoneforge Mystic, crack Scalding Tarn. Get a Stomping Ground tapped. Opponent Stoneforge Mystic. They get a Cauldra Complete. We untap, draw Forest, play Misty, crack Misty, get an Island, evoke Wave Sifter, investigate twice, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. I imagine they're just going to put Cauldra into play and smash. They play Concealed Courtyard. They put Cauldra into play. They are going to hit us for 5. We go to 13. Untap. Draw Gemstone Caverns. I don't think with the amount of copies of Grief my opponent is likely playing, I will be able to wait on this Cascade. So we're going to Cascade now with 5 permanents. Glimpse of Tomorrow. We get Risen Reef and a whole host of triggers. Oh my goodness. Wooded Foothills into play, Wooded Foothills into play. Draw Seasoned Pyromancer, draw Violent Outbursts, draw Fury, Scalding Tarn into play, investigate twice, make a plant, then Shardless Agent resolves. Why does this have Trample, of all things? And why is the... I know why the token's indestructible, it's just frustrating. So, evoke Fury by pitching Pyromancer. 4 damage to Stoneforge Mystic. Mountain into play. Draw Omnath, which will be great. Then we pass the turn. Okay. Opponent untaps. They play a Plains. They play Stoneforge Mystic. They tutor up Nothing? Okay. So they're either holding all their equipment or I don't know what's going on. So we untap. We draw Risen Reef. Fetch with Scalding Tarn. Get an island. Fetch with Wooded Foothills. Get a Temple Garden. Do we need to play Omnath or do we just spin? Honestly, what do we do? I could evoke Wave Sifter and spin, and that'll be a lot of damage, especially if I hit a Chancellor. I'm going to hold on to the land for the landfall triggers. I think the difference between like 13 and 15 permanents or whatever is not as important. So evoke Wave Sifter. More Risen Reef triggers. We draw Dark Dwellers. We put Misty into play. We make tokens. We sack Wave Sifter. Float green, float red. Play Gemstone Caverns. Cast Violent Outburst. Cascade. This should be a huge spin. Cast Glimpse. Shuffle everything back in. I will shock Stomping Ground. I will not shock Steam Vents because that will kill me. We get a whole incredible host of triggers. Oh, we are at 2 life. Put a Mountain into play. More Omnath triggers. Put a Misty Rainforest into play. Draw Risen Reef. Wave Sifter investigates. Seasoned Pyromancer discards. We're going to discard Risen Reef because I do not want to draw my whole deck this time. We draw another Risen Reef. We draw another Omnath, which is kind of bad because now we're holding all of our Omnaths. We draw our last... Is that our last Glimpse? No, we have one more. Okay. So now we can fetch a forest, float more mana. We can fetch a Stomping Ground untapped, so we can float red. We have all of our basics. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. So if I cast Dark Dwellers, I can leave up Violent Outburst or Shardless Agent if we hit it. So flip Glimpse again. Shuffle everything back up. Get what is probably most of the rest of our deck. We cannot pay life. Oh yeah, Chancellor probably kills my opponent. I'm gonna target Violent Outburst. Oh, I did this in the wrong order. I should have, I guess, put the Dark Dweller triggers first. But discard Omnath. Make tokens. Colony Garden, make tokens. Dark Dwellers, we will not flashback. Not flashback. And not flashback. Make a whole bunch of hasted goblins. That's 15 goblins. If I'd stacked the triggers correctly, my opponent would actually be dead. What can I do here? Can I actually do anything? I can block Kaldra a lot. So whenever this creature deals combat damage to a creature, exile that creature. Yeah, I can live with that. Go to combat. How does Chancellor of the Forge itself not have haste? Hit my opponent for 15, take them to 1. Watch them have, like, Collective Brutality or something. It'd just kill me. Pass the turn. If only I stacked that trigger slightly differently. Sword of Fire and Ice. I don't think I have enough green toughness to survive. Yeah, because everything I have is red or blue. So if I block with all this, 2 tramples over, and we die because I stacked the triggers incorrectly. Alright, well, we tried. Versus my opponent's deck. Like, the Artifact Destruction doesn't do anything against Caldera, so I guess I'll play Leyline of Sanctity. We can cut 2 Colony Gardens. I guess a Wave Sifter and a Pyromancer, maybe? Try like this. Alright, we do want to play first. This hand doesn't really work, so we're mulliganing. This hand doesn't really work on the play. It might work on the draw, but I think we still have to mulligan. And I'd really rather not mulligan anymore, so we'll keep this. And we will put back Omnath and Risen Reef. So start Wooded Foothills, crack Wooded Foothills. Let's get a Temple Garden. Pass the turn. I think we do have to wait and play Risen Reef before we evoke Wave Sifter. We get Duressed. Haha, joke's on you, I'm playing creatures. We untap. We draw Leyline of Sanctity. Play Scalding Tarn. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps, they draw. They crack Marsh Flats. They play Godless Shrine. Unmarked Grave. Okay. So they put Sarah's Emissary into the grave. That is a problem. Get a Steam Vents, because if they can just persist that out of the grave and say protection from creatures, we actually can't kill them. I say that with 99% certainty. Play Risen Reef. Okay, we draw Omnath. Pass the turn. Yep. So, what did I bring in for this matchup? Let me look at the sideboard and refresh my memory, if I can find it. I brought in ley lines and nothing else, and I have no alternative win conditions, and I have no way to kill that Sarah's Emissary because the only way we have to deal damage to it is creatures. Alright, we lose. Lost to Sarah's Emissary. Well, we got back half our entry. 1 minute and I'll do the wrap up. Alright, so we could have Leyline to the Void our last opponent. We could have also brought in the 3/4 reach elemental evoke green creature that Tormod's Crypt's our opponent, but I don't have the card. I'm not justifying spending $50 on an individual card, and I need 3 of them to build this deck anyway. I don't think this deck is better than the regular Glimpse combo, although it is a lot more interesting because you just glimpse over and over and over again to just kill your opponent on the spot. It's kind of like a 4 Horsemeness combo, kind of as I initially speculated. I'm trying to remember the deck tech that I did at the beginning of the video because it was so long ago. But yeah, no, I like the deck. I just don't think it's better than the other Glimpse of Tomorrow combo decks. So I highly recommend against playing this one. It is very unnecessarily expensive, and I hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but the last few times have been earlier than that. And yeah, you're all wonderful human beings. I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of June. If you want to have your name show up in this list, there's a link to my Patreon down in the description below. Thank you all.